Good morning again, everyone. Thank you for being here today for this announcement. As the Minister and I have said, we're committed to ensuring New Zealand has the talent and skills that we need to succeed. That starts with making sure New Zealanders have the basic competencies and qualifications they need to thrive. It also involves filling gaps in our workforce where there are specialist skills that we may not have available to us here. And today's announcement supports that. And we're happy to take your questions.
NZ First is breaking with the government over this. Did you guys make any changes to keep them on your side?
Look, this just reflects stable coalition management, which is from time to time parties have slightly different perspectives on issues. This is one where ultimately New Zealand First were happy to let us to progress this work while also disagreeing with aspects of it.
Are you worried that they might criticise some more of your future immigration policy?
No, that doesn't concern us because actually we're broadly going for the same thing, which is that we agree that immigration should be restricted to where we have genuine workforce shortages. We want a smart, intelligent immigration system that focuses on skills that would otherwise not be available in New Zealand. We've completely shifted the system from where it was under the last government, where we had huge numbers of unskilled migrants coming to New Zealand. We don't want to progress that way. That's agreed between the three parties, and so our immigration policy decisions will reflect that.
Well, what do you say to New Zealand First's concerns about this?
Look, we just have a different perspective. We have designed this policy to be really, really careful that it's a narrow pathway. And in particular, as the Minister emphasised today, this is about people who are already here. And in many cases are highly integrated into their communities, have skills and experience that's very valuable to their employers. And so we don't think that this presents the risks or dangers that New Zealand First may perceive. But I will let the Minister comment on that because obviously this is something that she's worked on in great detail.
Yeah, look, as the Finance Minister has said, it is about retaining that great talent, and it is migrant neutral. These are people who are already here, and if they are forced to leave, as I mentioned in my speech, the productivity drops for those companies all across New Zealand, including regional areas of New Zealand who rely on those skilled migrants. That productivity drop will be really immense. If you think about having to bring in someone else, and likely will have to be a migrant from overseas, and then they'll have to be retrained over a period of time, it will be really devastating for many businesses. This is really smart, it's really targeted, and it means we don't need to bring in new people.
Is the agree to disagree ultimately a rejection of the policy?
Look, I think it's just New Zealand First signalling their concerns, and we have shared those concerns, and so in developing this policy we've been really careful to ensure there are belts and braces to make this a controlled pathway, and we understand New Zealand First's concerns about open door policies in the past that haven't led to the kind of economic growth that we want to see. So we're taking a different approach as a government, and I have absolute confidence that with Erica Stanford at the helm, we've got a smart immigration system that has the right rules and restrictions in place.
It's is that these visa changes will probably be abused or can be abused by migrants who simply just want to go to Australia and are using New Zealand as a stepping stone to get there. What are your reactions to that?
In terms of that stepping stone to Australia, that is not something we need to be concerned about. For many of these roles, it is easier to get residence in Australia than it is in New Zealand. In fact, Australia is more likely to be used as a stepping stone to New Zealand. It is just not the case that people are coming here waiting to get into Australia. And if you go and look at their residence settings, that becomes very, very clear. And the number of migrants who are leaving to Australia is broadly on par with the number of overseas-born people of the general population of New Zealand. So that is not something that is a concern. It's not something that's borne out in the facts, and it's not something that's happening.
Is New Zealand First wrong then? They say they have data that shows.
I know the data that they're talking about. It's a very, very different set of data. That is the New Zealanders born overseas that are now getting residence in Australia. Now, if you look at that cohort of people, they would have had to have been New Zealand citizens before they went to Australia, which means they would have had to have been here working, probably for 2 or 3 years, then get their permanent residence, then get their citizenship. That adds up to about a decade. Then they would have had to have been in Australia for 4 years. before they got their residence there. So these people are 14 years ago would have entered New Zealand. And they've been building up in Australia. That's a very different statistic than the people who are here today working in our businesses. And I understand that New Zealand First are looking at that, but that is not a figure that you should use to work out whether or not we want to keep these key people here in New Zealand.
And the other vantage point on that is just to consider that where there are highly specialised skills that New Zealand's growing businesses need, actually if we lose those people to Australia, that's a loss for our economy and communities as well. And this pathway will prevent that happening, where actually these are people who are helping us create jobs and incomes in New Zealand.
Did any officials warn you that this policy could potentially be used as a stepping stone to Australia while you were coming up with this?
No, it's just not the case. If you look at Australia, all of these roles, it's almost much easier to get residents in Australia. It's just not a concern. The problem that we have is that we don't have the settings to keep, as the Minister mentioned, those people here in New Zealand, and we're fixing that. And it was a problem of the previous government that left us with a residency program that was not fit for purpose, and today that is now fixed.
Why doesn't your coalition partner believe you on all that?
Look, I think sometimes they just have a different perspective. For our part, we believe that New Zealand has actually succeeded through having welcomed New Zealanders into our country who started off as people born in other countries in the world. They've brought skills, they've brought talent, they've brought opportunity for our country. Many Kiwis were either born here or were born overseas, or their parents were born overseas. That's part of our social fabric. We agree with New Zealand First that we need to have targeted, smart immigration policies. And I think what you're seeing from our coalition partner is really wanting to bring a focus to that, and that's reflected in their position today. Ultimately, we think that's what we have achieved, but this is something where they've chosen to speak out.
Was there any way this could have been packaged that would have made New Zealand First happy with it?
If you look at the settings, as we've both said a lot today, very smart, very targeted about highly skilled migrants who need a significant amount of experience and New Zealand work experience, quite a high threshold of income to be able to work here. And on top of that, there is a restricted job list to make sure that this policy won't be abused in the future like it has been in the past. Very smart, very targeted. And I think that's what New Zealand First often talk about: smart immigration, targeted immigration, highly skilled people, and that's what this visa delivers.
Just because you're so confident that it wouldn't be used as a stepping stone for Australia, at least widely, would you be confident releasing the cabinet paper and the advice on any warnings you did receive on this policy?
Oh, look, of course, in due course we will do that. There's that as is normal practice. I think, ultimately what you're seeing in our coalition government is that we're providing a strong, stable government, and within that we're also adults, and like all adults, from time to time we have slightly different perspectives, and we work through all of the official advice. We enjoy the challenge and test process that comes with different perspectives around the cabinet table, and I think the Minister would reflect that the policy has benefited from some of those refinements.
Is it a problem that a leader who is the Foreign Minister disagrees with your policy looking after foreigners?
No, because broadly, actually, New Zealand First supports the immigration approach of this government. What we're talking about is one specific change where they have a slightly different perspective. In general, I know that our Foreign Affairs Minister recognises that many communities and businesses in New Zealand have benefited from welcoming people from overseas.
Is this a pathway to citizenship?
Well, look, it's a pathway to residence and eventually citizenship if they meet all of the criteria. It is a very long road. If you think about the settings, people will have to have, the experience to get the work visa in the start. Then they have to work here in New Zealand for a period of time. Then they have to get their permanent residence, which takes a couple of years. And then it's 5 years to get citizenship, which you have to be in country for a certain period of time and fulfil certain criteria. So it is quite a long pathway to citizenship, but it is possible if all of the criteria are fulfilled.
What would you say to concerns that New Zealand's infrastructure cannot cope with more permanent migrants?
But we're talking about relatively small numbers. If you saw in our speech today, it doesn't represent a huge amount, and that's why we've been very careful with selecting the right income threshold, which there will be some people who don't meet that. We've also made sure that we've got that amber and red list where some exclusions will apply, so that we can carefully control the numbers. This does not represent a flood of people being able to apply for citizenship. It is a very small targeted number of very highly skilled people that we desperately need to grow our economy.
And the other side of that is that we're a government who's committed to developing significantly larger amounts of infrastructure, and we're presenting a really big infrastructure pipeline of new roads, hospitals and schools. And one of the things that construction firms and infrastructure delivery businesses tell us is that one of the things that can slow down the building of new infrastructure is if they can't get the people with the highly specialised skills sometimes required, whether that's on the tunnel making machine that may not be a skill set that's previously been developed in New Zealand, or the people with the specialist skills for construction. So actually immigration can support the delivery of high quality infrastructure.
But what we have seen in the last few years is a flood of very low-skilled migrants because under the previous government they, directed Immigration New Zealand to close their eyes and hit approve. And so that did see floods of low-skilled migrants and their families and their children, which did put a strain on our services. And we have brought that to a close. We've put in some very targeted policies to make sure that we are targeting highly skilled workers, and you would have seen, as we mentioned, that shift. And we don't have that situation anymore. This is a very different policy about targeting those highly skilled workers and their families.
Minister Stanford, you've previously said the median wage is used as an artificial proxy for skill. Why then is the median wage requirement, why is there a median wage requirement with these pathways?
Well, if you look back to the previous government's policy with median wage, that was for everybody. If you were coming in to work as a cleaner or a very low or unskilled person, you were still earning the median wage. That was crippling for businesses and it was disrupting the industry, and it was meaning that migrants were being paid more than the Kiwi standing next to them. That was a disaster, and it was not workable. This is very different. We have always had income levels for our residency pathways, and we always will. It's a very important part of the settings to make sure that we are attracting the right skill. It's not just the income though. If you look at the policy settings, it's that 5 years of relevant work experience that we will be checking very carefully, and relevant work experience in New Zealand, and it's been properly market tested here in New Zealand, so it is a genuine job.
And that's all about making sure it is a highly refined policy that is genuinely focused on highly skilled people.
Minister Stanford, I'm sorry to move on to something else. Radio New Zealand recently polled on whether National should change its leader, and yours was the name that came up. Are you interested in being Prime Minister?
I tell you something, I love my job. I want to be the Minister of Immigration and Education for the next 10 years. I've got a lot of work to do, and I'm very happy where I am.
Does the Prime Minister have your backing?
Yes, he does have my full backing. He's doing a great job, and I'm very pleased to be and honoured to be part of his cabinet. Look, he has given me some incredible opportunities, as has the Minister of Finance, to do my job and to do it well, and I'm very grateful for that.
Just going back to these changes, do you have the public's backing, do you think?
On these changes? Well, because we have been very targeted and selective, and as I outlined in my speech today, these settings are not just about businesses, they're about communities, and making sure families can get the tradesmen when they need them, that their local projects are running well, and that their lab test results come back quickly. It's really important for New Zealanders, and they want to see their local communities thrive. Many of these people, these really highly skilled people, are working in industries in regional parts of New Zealand. And so I tried to make sure in my speech today that I was saying this is not just about businesses, it's about local communities as well.
If you think about it, often these are people who've been here for a few years, they're here with their family, they've become integrated in the community, they're part of local sports clubs, they're volunteering down the road. And Kiwis don't like it when they lose those important people. They don't like it when the local business ends up struggling because it doesn't have the skills it needs in an important area. So I think New Zealanders recognise that where people are integrated into our communities, offering something we wouldn't otherwise have, then they're valuable. And we've actually seen that. There have been various occasions in New Zealand when a migrant's visa has run out or they're feeling that they need to leave, and you've seen communities rally around them and say, look, why are the settings not allowing this person who's so important to our country to stay? And so this policy is about striking the balance of ensuring that we're providing residency opportunities with those for a lot of skills, but not creating an open door.
How many migrants do you think it will attract here?
In terms of the ones the migrants who are already here, we've been able to have a bit of an estimate on how many we think will apply. We do have a backlog because if you think about the last few years, we haven't had this policy in place. So we know there'll be an initial spike, and then after that, we're predicting that will even out to about 5 to 6, 7,000 applications per year. So it will not only retain the people that we've got, it will attract migrants to come to New Zealand, knowing that they've got a pathway, but remembering that they can't come unless they have a job offer that has been fully tested in New Zealand to make sure there wasn't a Kiwi available to do the job.
For context, under the last government, migration levels surged to around 100,000.
134,000.
134,000 a year.
Yeah.
This policy at its maximum will bring in fewer than 10,000 people. So proportionate to policies in the past, this is much more targeted, much more specific.
And you've been saying targeted, sorry if you maybe mentioned this earlier, but what are those qualifications that you guys will be going for from the beginning?
Well, if you look at the trades and technicians pathway, it'll be a level 4 or above qualification. So if you think about, your welder, your fitter turner, your refrigeration expert, these people who have a sub-degree qualification and then that 4 or 5 years of experience are gold. They are so important to our economy, and that's why we've included that pathway, including those qualifications.
And what about the other one, the skilled pathway? What kind of experience would you be looking for there?
It's that 5 years worth of experience and that high level of pay, so 1.1 times the median wage and 5 years of skilled experience that's highly relevant to the job that they're in.
Any field in particular?
No, it's open, well, it's any field,
Okay.
except remembering that there will be an exclusion and an amber list as well to make sure that we're managing that properly.
Right.
And often these are people who will then be able to pass those skills on to young Kiwis. If you're wanting to go into an industry or a trade and have an advanced career pathway, you need someone who can teach you advanced skills, and these people often have skills internationally that we need here at home and are able to pass those on.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Thank you.